I go through some principles in this Excuses Be Gone, and one of them is called willingness. It's like, how willing are you to do what it takes in order to create, make your future dream a present fact, to make the thing that you want to do a fact today. What do you have on your unwillingness list? What are you unwilling to do? If you knew that it required you to leave Atlanta and to go to Los Angeles and to uproot yourself and your family and so on, would you be willing to do that? We usually have a long list of these, and I always tell people when I did Erroneous Zones and when I did this film that I'm just done now, I didn't have anything on my unwilling list. I was willing to leave a job that was a guaranteed tenure position at a major university for the rest of my life. I was willing to walk away from that. I was willing to get in my car and to pay my own expenses and to drive across this entire country for 2 years, doing nothing but just talking on radio shows and really being committed to that. I was willing to sleep in my car and sneak into hotels and take showers, and because I didn't have the money to do that. It's like, if you have whatever you have on your unwilling list, it turns out ultimately to become an excuse and a rationale for, well, I can't do that because it would be, I'm too old, or I've got, any number of those excuses that we talk about. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear that it's not going to work out, fear that I don't have enough talent, fear that the right people won't be there. It's all of this stuff. And if you start examining each one of them and ask yourself, is it true? Is it really, and can you be 100% certain that it's true that you don't have the financing, or that you don't have the right people, or that, you'll begin to examine that and see that you can't be 100% certain about any of that stuff. So stop believing all of those thoughts that you have that are keeping you from, acting on this. And I would recommend that you take some time in the next day, maybe even after this phone call, and just do one thing that would be moving you in the direction of getting back, as a filmmaker. Whatever it might be, whether it would be picking up the telephone and calling somebody. Do you have a script? Do you have an idea? If you haven't, then maybe that's something to start on. If you do have a script or an idea of what kind of a film that you would like to make, then doing one thing today that puts you in the direction of actualizing that, whatever that might be, whether it's a letter, whether it's going out and dusting off your equipment, I don't know, but anything at all that you do, and then you hold on to that vision, and as you hold that vision, you'll take the next step, and before you know it, you'll be back doing it. And you won't be doing it because of how much money you're going to make. You'll be doing it because your heart tells you that this is who you are, this is your dharma. It's some of the teachings of Neville. What I want you to do is, in your mind, in your imagination, imagine yourself if you want to have your future dream become a present fact, then you have to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So in your mind, you create for yourself, in your imagination, which is yours, nobody can take that away from you, you create the image of yourself completing a successful film. And then you go to the feeling state of that. So how does that feel in your body? So let me ask you that question. If you were able to be on a film set doing what it is that you really believe in your heart is your dharma and what you came to do, and you could see yourself doing that successfully, how would you feel? You stay with that feeling state, and the last 5 minutes before you go to sleep at night, you let your subconscious mind, which believes anything that you feel, your subconscious mind believes is true. So you go to the truth of that, and you hold on to that feeling, and by holding on to that feeling, you'll begin to activate that. I always say, if I had no money whatsoever, and I had to go out and get a job, and I went over to McDonald's, and I decided that I was going to just make French fries, or whatever it was that I was going to do for $8 an hour, or whatever that is, that my vision wouldn't be that I'm only here to just make French fries and I'm only going to make $8 an hour. I would think about owning the place, and I'd always have that vision in my head, and I would never let it go. And I would even get the feeling of, what does it feel like to be the owner of this place and to have this franchise and to whatever it might be. Even though I was still doing the French fries, and then I'd move from the French fries over to another section of making the salads or whatever it is, and I'd always be on the alert for how I can bring prosperity to myself and still offer something great here, instead of just saying, oh my God, I'm stuck in this no exit kind of job that there's nothing I can do about. And that's the way I've always worked in my life, always. From every job that I've ever had, I've always expanded wherever I was and figured out another way. When I was a school counselor, I set up a driver education business, and I was driving after school and, making more money doing that after a year or so. When I was teaching at the university, I set up lecture series on a Monday night at a community center in Port Washington, New York, and after 2 years, I had 1,200 people coming there to the high school to hear me speak on Monday nights. And then I would set up a practice or whatever it might be. It was like, there's opportunities in everything, but we get so stuck in our rigid kind of thinking that I got laid off and, oh my gosh, there's nothing that else I can do, and here I am. Mm-hmm. And there's opportunities everywhere, everywhere.